The cold command cut through the opulent air of the Grand Meridian. "Security, we have a trespasser in the lobby. Remove this woman immediately before she disturbs our real guests." The voice belonged to Lauren Whitfield, the 36-year-old front desk manager, her face sharp, her eyes fixed on the woman standing still before the reception counter. Dressed in a tight office dress, arms crossed over her chest, Lauren looked like a general on the battlefield, convinced that with a single order, the person in front of her would be crushed. The woman, Amara Ellis, 42, did not move. Her charcoal grey tailored suit, her neatly tied hair, and the glossy black leather briefcase pressed against her chest reflected the chandelier's glow, casting light across her straight shoulders and deep black eyes. There was no panic, no resistance, only a dangerous calm, the kind that unsettled others because they could not guess what lay behind it. The wealthy guests began to gather, forming a semicircle. Phones were raised, cameras flashing. No one wanted to miss the chance to capture the eviction of someone who didn't belong. To them, Amara was just a black woman, dressed too properly, a facade attempting to infiltrate a world that wasn't meant for her. Lauren turned, a smirk of disdain curving her lips. "You see," she said loudly for her impromptu audience, "sometimes a few expensive clothes make people believe they have the right to walk into our world." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the lobby. An older man in tennis attire nodded. "Yes, maintaining standards is what matters." Amara did not reply. Her eyes stayed locked on Lauren, as if dissecting every line on her face, a steady gaze carrying the weight of authority. Inside her chest, Amara's heartbeat remained calm, but beneath that calm was a suppressed fury, compressed like a coal ember, waiting for its moment to ignite. Lauren pointed toward the back entrance, the one used by staff. "The door for people like you is over there. You are not permitted to use the main entrance." Two security guards emerged from behind marble pillars. Marco Ruiz, 41, broad-shouldered, thick-necked, his hand resting on the taser belt. Beside him was Ben Carter, 33, eyes sharp, moving as if preparing to close in. Code yellow in the main lobby, Marco spoke into his radio. Suspicious trespass situation. Amara glanced at her Cartier watch, the platinum face glimmering under the chandelier. 10 minutes. The number echoed in her mind like a reminder. 10 minutes until the truth revealed itself. Lauren let out a cutting laugh. "What meeting?" "The only meeting you have is with the pavement outside." A whisper came from the concierge desk. Lena Chen, a 24-year-old girl, was live-streaming on her phone. Her trembling voice said, "This is insane. The hotel manager is throwing out a black businesswoman for no reason." The viewership climbed from 800 to 2,000 to 5,000. With each passing second, the words Grand Meridian racism began to spread. Lauren noticed the camera and only heightened her performance. "Bear witness, ladies and gentlemen, to someone who thinks counterfeit designer goods can grant her entry into this world of luxury." The crowd erupted. A woman in pearls exclaimed, "Finally someone dares to hold the line." Amara shifted her briefcase slightly, revealing for an instant a platinum card tucked inside. But in a blink it was hidden again, clutched tighter. Her phone buzzed with a message from the legal team. "Team ready for acquisition announcement. Boardroom prepared." Lauren squinted, trying to glance at the screen, then sneered. "Probably your parole officer texting you." More phones lifted. Some were live streaming directly to TikTok with captions like, "White manager confronts black guest." Marco stepped closer, his voice low. "Ma'am, please leave voluntarily, or we will have to escort you out." Amara exhaled slowly, as though teaching the crowd a lesson in patience. Her voice was low, but it resonated. I understand your mistake, but I strongly advise you to confirm my meeting before you do something irreversible. Lauren's face flushed with anger at her composure. Irreversible? What's truly irreversible is the damage to this hotel's reputation if we allow a trespasser to roam free. Lena kept filming. She's only asking for confirmation. They still refuse to listen. This is disturbing. Comments flooded in. Call the media. Clearly racist. What kind of hotel is this? Daniel Brooks, seated near the bar, typed furiously, "Racism in real time. The disgrace of Grand Meridian." His post was immediately shared across hospitality forums. Lauren basked in her heroic moment. "I've worked in hospitality for 12 years. I can spot who doesn't belong at a glance. This woman is just here to take advantage." Amara opened her briefcase slightly. Inside were documents embossed with elegant lettering. Washington Hospitality Group acquisition files. She closed it before anyone could notice. 8 minutes. Marco frowned. 8 minutes until what? An imaginary meeting with the Tooth Fairy? The crowd pressed closer, phones high, turning the lobby into a live broadcast studio. Lauren seized the moment, turning to the audience, her voice syrupy yet laced with venom. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is how we protect the integrity of luxury hospitality. Some people think outrage alone entitles them to privileges. But here, standards are the law." Her phone buzzed again. The screen glowed with the name, Derek Morrison, CEO, Grand Meridian. Amara did not answer. 6 minutes. Marco's radio crackled. "Attention! Media is now aware of Code Yellow. Handled discreetly." Lena's live stream surpassed 15,000 viewers. The hashtag Grand Meridian Racism began trending. Images of Amara, calm within the encirclement, spread across Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. But Lauren, engrossed in her performance, didn't notice. She waved her hand. "Security. Escort her out through the back door. Record everything for the report." Marco and Ben moved in. The crowd closed tighter, forming a ring. Phones trembled, ready to capture the moment of ejecting the outsider. Amara remained still, her hand gripping the briefcase, her gaze calm, yet carrying a glimmer only the observant could see. The certainty of someone who already held the ending in her hands. And in that instant, a thought flickered through some onlookers' minds. Why is she so calm? Because Amara Ellis had not come here to beg. She had come to test the very system she was about to own. The executive elevator doors slid open with a cold chime. The crowd turned. From it stepped a silver-haired man, Victor Lang, 52, general manager of the Grand Meridian, a navy bespoke suit, a silver-grey silk tie, and a smile polished over 15 years in the industry. He strode forward with the air of a man accustomed to power, confident that a single glance would restore order. "What is happening here?" His voice thundered across the lobby, seasoned with years of crisis management. Lauren immediately lifted her chin, her face glowing as if she had just found a lifeline. "Victor, thank goodness. This woman refuses to leave." I explained clearly that she doesn't belong here. The crowd murmured. Phones locked onto the moment when the superior appeared to deal with the supposed troublemaker. Some guests whispered, "Truly professional." The general manager himself steps in. Victor glanced at Amara. In his eyes, there was a fleeting recognition of the perfect suit, the luxurious briefcase, the confident stance. But then old prejudice drowned reason. He nodded slightly, as if reaching a conclusion. Surely just another opportunist. "Madam," he said with condescension, "I am Victor Lang, General manager here. I understand you are mistaken about hotel policy, but private establishments have their own standards. You are not in the reservation list, nor is there any appointment approved by the system. Amara lifted her gaze. Calm. Are you certain? Absolutely certain, Victor replied firmly. Lena Chen's live stream surpassed 22,000 viewers. Her voice trembled with excitement. Now the general manager is involved. The tension is unbearable. Comments flooded. Call a lawyer. This is open racism. Why is she still so calm? Amara checked her watch. 7 minutes. Victor frowned. 7 minutes to what? A meeting with the Fairy Council? Marco reported briefly into his radio. Subject non-compliant for 12 minutes. Keeps insisting on an appointment. Unable to verify. Victor nodded. Security exists for a reason. We cannot allow just anyone to wander in. Applause erupted from a corner of the lobby. An elegantly dressed couple smiled in satisfaction. The wife raised her voice for all to hear. This is why we chose this hotel, for its exclusivity. Lauren looked at Victor with pride, the two standing as if on stage, certain they were doing the right thing. But Amara only tilted her head slightly, whispering almost to herself. Interesting. 15 years without a single discrimination lawsuit? Or have they simply been buried? The words fell into silence. A few in the crowd froze, sensing something unsettling in the woman's composure. Victor gave a dismissive laugh, trying to mask his unease. You think we are unprofessional? On the contrary, we are too professional to let opportunists like you tarnish our reputation. Outside, the wail of a police siren pierced the luxury, echoing like a warning bell. Marco murmured into his radio. Unit 47 en route, 4 minutes out. Lauren flashed a victorious smile, turning to the cameras. Do you see? The police are coming. This charade is over. Victor stepped closer to Amara, his sharp cologne filling the air, his tone steely. Your little game ends here. I have managed this hotel for 15 years. I can tell a troublemaker at a glance. The crowd cheered again. A man in a polo shirt lifted his phone high, recording Victor standing imposingly before Amara. This is how a real leader handles unreasonable demands. But in that moment, the light in Amara's eyes shifted. Patience settled into something sharper, the cold decisiveness of someone holding true power. You are right about one thing, she answered, her voice low but carrying. This is a game. But this game does not end with you. Victor faltered for half a second. Lauren scoffed. A threat? Ridiculous. Amara raised her head, her eyes gleaming like blades. You forgot the simplest step. Verification. One call, one check, and you would have known the truth. Instead, you chose humiliation. You chose prejudice. Lena whispered into her camera, her voice trembling. Something is about to happen. I can feel it. Viewers climbed past 40,000. A shadow of unease crept into the mind of Ben Carter, the younger guard. He hesitated. Sir, if she really does have documents, Lauren cut him off, her tone as sharp as a whip. Ben, don't be manipulated. This is exactly their tactic. Don't be weak. Victor nodded in agreement. Correct. We do not bargain with opportunists who exploit social media. Outside, red and blue lights flickered in the distance. The crowd surged, eager for the finale of removing the outsider to be captured on camera. Amara tightened her grip on the briefcase, inhaled deeply. 2 minutes. At that instant, the entire space seemed to freeze. Her gentle yet clear words cut through the noise. Are you certain you want to continue down this path? Victor burst into a showy laugh. Absolutely. People like you need to learn consequences. The phrase people like you echoed through the marble lobby like an invisible gunshot. The crowd fell silent. Phones trembled. Amara gave a slight nod. She placed the briefcase on the reception counter. Her gaze locked directly onto Lena Chen's camera, as if staring into the eyes of tens of thousands watching online. It is time. A soft click from the lock rang out, a tiny sound like thunder. Every breath held as Amara slowly opened the briefcase. The sound of the briefcase lock snapping open sliced through the lobby like a blade. Hundreds of eyes fixed on Amara Ellis. People expected a fake hotel card, an old business card, or some makeshift papers to laugh at. But her hand, with long fingers polished in a refined nude shade, pulled out a thick envelope, heavy ivory paper embossed with crimson seals. The crowd shuddered. Security guard Marco Ruiz unconsciously loosened his stance, while Ben Carter frowned, as if instinct told him this was no cheap performance. Amara placed the file on the marble counter. Her voice was not loud, but carried, clear and metallic, like steel striking stone. Time is up. She flipped open the first page. A gold-embossed logo gleamed. Washington Hospitality Group, Corporate Acquisition Division. Directly beneath, bold letters read, Acquisition of Controlling Interest, Grand Meridian Hotels International. The entire lobby exploded in a moment of absolute silence. General Manager Victor Lang froze, his arrogant smile dissolving. He blinked rapidly, trying to skim the words. The legal language cut sharp as blades. 73% ownership, effective as of 9 a.m. today. Authorized signature, corporate seal. Lauren Whitfield leaned in, stammering. No. This can't be. Marco bent down, lifting the paper from the counter, his eyes scanning each line. 15 years of security experience told him the truth. Watermarks, notarized signatures, fresh seals. He swallowed hard, his voice catching. Sir, this looks real. Victor's face went pale. He forced a laugh. No, this is a forgery. It must be. I've managed this hotel for 15 years. If something this major were happening, I would have been notified. Amara tilted her head slightly, her gaze burning like forged steel. You think you are important enough to be notified? The question pierced straight into Victor's chest. Amara's phone buzzed, the screen glowing for all to see. Boardroom acquisition announcement. Ready. A message from the legal team surfaced in the storm. Lena Chen zoomed in, her voice breaking with excitement. Oh my God, she's the new owner. She owns this hotel. Viewership surged past 58,000. Comments flashing non-stop. Ultimate plot twist. They tried to throw out their own boss. History in the making. Amara straightened, her voice booming like thunder through the marble hall. I am Amara Ellis, Chief Executive Officer of Washington Hospitality Group. As of 9 a.m. today, my company officially holds 73% controlling interest in Grand Meridian. In other words, this property belongs to me. The lobby erupted. Many guests lowered their phones in shock. Some stood gaping in disbelief. The woman they had dismissed as a trespasser was the new owner of the building. Victor stumbled back a step, his hand trembling. No, impossible. I will call the board of directors. They will clarify this. Amara drew out another thick folder, bound in blue with legal stamps. She slid it toward him. This is the board meeting agenda at 3 p.m. today in the penthouse conference room. The very meeting I referenced repeatedly. The meeting you insisted didn't exist. Lauren's face drained of color. She tried to salvage her ground. You staged this. It's a setup, a show to humiliate us. Amara turned to her, her eyes sharp as blades. A setup? A setup for what? To walk into a hotel I already own. The lobby erupted in uneasy murmurs. Those guests who had shouted about standards now fell silent, edging back. Just then, from the elevator, emerged a tall woman with neatly combed silver hair. Helena Park, 55, a board member. Her face changed at the sight of Amara. "Ms. Ellis, we were waiting for you in the boardroom. When you did not arrive, we became truly concerned." The entire crowd fell silent. Confirmation from the board itself struck like the final hammer. Victor's complexion drained of blood. Lauren trembled, searching for excuses. Amara allowed none. She pulled out one final document, reading aloud into the dead still air. Clause 1204. Acquisition contract. Any act of discrimination, prejudice, or insult by management constitutes a severe violation, leading to immediate termination, with no severance, no pension, and no benefits. Victor staggered. 15 years of career obliterated in a few lines of text. Lauren whispered, "Broken. No, this cannot be real." Amara stepped forward, her voice low, each word heavy as a gavel. "You had your chance. All you needed to do was verify. But instead of performing the most basic duty, you chose humiliation. You chose prejudice. And now you will pay the price." The air thickened. Marco lowered his hand from his weapon, stepping back in respect. Ben looked at Amara, his eyes full of remorse. Lena Chen declared to her audience, "This is history. She didn't just win, she's rewriting the rules." Amara closed the file, her gaze locked on Victor and Lauren. A faint smile crossed her lips, not of pride, but of someone who knew the truth had been laid bare. From this moment, the game has changed. This is no longer your hotel. This is proof of what happens when real power confronts prejudice. And with those words, the balance tipped completely. The marble lobby, once echoing with insults, had become an open court. No judge was needed, for tens of thousands of eyes on the live stream had become the jury. The air in the marble lobby was heavy, like a verdict yet to be spoken. Just minutes ago, Victor Lang and Lauren Whitfield had been the commanding figures, praised by the crowd as guardians of standards. Now they looked like actors who had botched their own performance, the light still shining, but the audience already turned away. Victor stammered, "I need to make a call. The board will confirm this for me." Amara Ellis slowly closed the file, her deep black eyes locking onto him. Her voice was low yet rang clear, as though each word were carved into stone. "You don't need to call. The board is already here." From the elevator stepped Helena Park, 55, a veteran member of the board of directors, accompanied by 2 colleagues. Her face was tense, her eyes carrying both surprise and shame at the chaos unfolding. "Miss Ellis," Helena spoke, "we were waiting for you in the boardroom. But when you didn't arrive, we grew concerned." And then her gaze swept over Victor, over Lauren, and finally rested on the 2 bewildered guards. My God, what on earth is happening here? Lauren seized the moment, her voice trembling, yet desperate to defend herself. "Helena, you know me. I was only protecting the image of the hotel. This woman, she—" Amara cut her off sharply. "She? You mean me?" Lauren froze, her throat closing tight. Amara turned toward the crowd, dozens of phone cameras capturing every breath. Everyone saw it. From the moment I stepped into this lobby, no one asked who I was. No one checked my appointment. All they saw was my skin color and their own prejudice. That is the truth. The crowd fell silent. Only the constant ping of Lena Chen's live stream remained, now surpassing 71,000 viewers. Comments poured in. "This is blatant racism. Plot twist of the century. They're finished." Amara placed another file on the counter, blue paper with red trim. the notary seal shimmering. "Mr. Lang," she said, her tone calm but merciless. "Your personnel file was reviewed during the acquisition process. 2 racial discrimination complaints in 2018 and 2022, both buried with corporate money, and today the entire world has witnessed the 3rd. Victor turned ashen. His mouth opened, but no words came. Amara continued. Clause 12.4 of the acquisition contract states clearly, any act of discrimination or abuse of power by senior management results in immediate termination. No severance, no pension, no benefits. Her words sliced like ice, severing 15 years of Victor's career in an instant. The crowd murmured, faces showing disgust rather than blind support. Lauren whispered in desperation, "No, this can't be. This is a trap." Amara turned to her, her gaze piercing. "A trap? No, Lauren. This is simply the truth. I didn't need to trap anyone. You revealed your prejudice in front of tens of thousands of witnesses online." Marco Ruiz, the burly guard, stepped back entirely. His voice dropped, almost to himself. "My God, we just threatened to arrest the owner of the hotel." Ben Carter swallowed hard, his face filled with regret. He whispered, "If only we had made a single phone call." Amara heard him. She turned, her voice stern, but not cold. "Exactly. Just one phone call. Instead, you chose force, chose intimidation. You have shown the world the real process here. Prejudice first, verification later. Or never." Helena Park advanced, her eyes dark with fury. "Victor Lauren, tell me, is what I am witnessing the truth?" Victor looked around, at the crowd, the cameras, the files. His throat was dry. I followed the rules." Amara cut in. "No, you followed prejudice. And now, the consequences cannot be avoided." Lauren broke down in tears, her voice shrill with panic. "Helena, believe me. I only wanted to protect the hotel's reputation. I couldn't have known she was what?" Amara asked, her eyes drilling into Lauren like knives. Lauren choked, then in a moment of lost control blurted out, "Was black." The sound fell into the space like a stone into a deep well, echoing in harsh rings. The lobby froze. The live stream exploded. Comments surged. That line just destroyed her. No doubt now this is blatant racism. Legendary. Helena Park turned away, her shoulders trembling with anger. "My God," Lauren Amara exhaled softly. Her face showed no triumph, only sadness mixed with resolve. "Thank you for your final honesty," she said, her voice quiet but carrying. "At least now, no one can deny what has happened." Victor collapsed into a chair in the corner of the lobby, as though the weight of his career was crushing his shoulders. Lauren sank to her knees, hands trembling, tears rolling down but finding no sympathy. Amara looked around, her gaze gentler as it landed on Marco and Ben. "You have families. You have careers. I understand. But you raised your hands to threaten the very owner of this building. That mistake must be corrected with action, not apology." Marco bowed his head, his voice hoarse. "Madam, I understand. I am ready to take responsibility." Ben whispered, "If you give us a chance to make it right." Amara nodded slightly, but said nothing more. Then she turned to the board. "Mrs. Park, please, let's proceed to the boardroom. We have much to discuss." Helena nodded, her eyes filled with respect. "Of course, CEO Ellis." As she walked, Amara paused, turning back to the crowd. Every phone still raised, tens of thousands of viewers online waiting for her final words. She spoke slowly, each word like an arrow piercing the heart of the old system. This is not just the story of a woman humiliated in a hotel lobby. This is proof of what happens when prejudice collides with real power. And today, power has won. The marble hall trembled with murmurs, gasps, and the furious tapping of keyboards. A new era had begun, and everyone knew, from this moment forward, Grand Meridian would never be the same. The elevator doors opened, revealing the penthouse boardroom of the Grand Meridian. Floor-to-ceiling glass displayed the glittering city below, but the dazzling lights could not erase the tension that awaited inside. At the center stood a long, polished mahogany table. 7 board members were already seated, their faces heavy with unease. In front of them lay documents, tablets and phones scattered across the surface. Yet every eye turned toward the woman who had just entered. Amara Ellis, still in her immaculate charcoal suit, her heels striking the marble floor with measured rhythm, walked straight to the head chair. Behind her came her legal team, led by Alicia Moreno, 44, her sharp gaze unyielding, a thick briefcase in hand. No one spoke. Only the sound of the glass doors closing and the faint whistle of wind outside filled the silence. Helena Park rose, her voice trembling but full of respect. "CEO Ellis, this seat now belongs to you." Amara sat down. The gesture was simple, not theatrical, yet decisive enough to make the entire room contract. She set her briefcase on the table, her warm yet steady voice carrying across the space. "Before we discuss the details of this acquisition, I need to address what just occurred in the lobby. An incident witnessed by tens of thousands, and now being debated by the entire world." The large screen lit up. Amara pressed a button on the remote. The live stream footage from Lena Chen appeared, replaying the moment Lauren Whitfield pointed directly at her, the moment Victor Lang smugly ordered police intervention, and finally, the fatal words from Lauren. How was I supposed to know she was black? The audio reverberated through the luxurious room. Board members frowned, some bowed their heads. Amara did not look away. That was not just a personal insult. That was a media bomb, a blatant act of racism, broadcast live to nearly 100,000 people. And the consequences of it, Alicia Moreno rose, opening her file. Her voice was sharp and firm. "We are facing potential violations of federal civil rights law, Section 1981, with penalties in the 7-figure range. Tennessee state penalties alone can reach $500,000 per incident. If other victims come forward, this could escalate into a class action." She paused, letting the words sink into each board member. Estimated damages: $15 to $25 million, not including reputational loss and market share decline. A heavy silence fell. Board member Robert Hayes, 61, a decade-long veteran, twirled a pen between his fingers, sweat beading on his forehead. We can handle this internally." Silence. Settlements. Just like before, Amara lifted her head, her eyes blazing. Just like before. It was that silence that nurtured this pattern. How many times have you buried the truth, paid off claims, concealed complaints, and today that entire system exploded in the middle of your hotel lobby? A sigh escaped from the far end of the table. Susan Kim, 49, spoke softly. "We never imagined it would all be exposed like this." Amara changed the slide. A chart appeared. Grand Meridian stock had fallen 4.7% within 30 minutes of the incident, wiping out $42 million in market value. Her words struck like hammer blows. Current data: negative sentiment at 87% across social media. Hashtag Grand Meridian Racism is trending #1 in 14 key markets. If we remain silent or attempt to lie, this number will double within 24 hours. No one objected. They knew she was right. Amara lowered her voice. Slower now, each word weighted. You must understand, this is not just a communications crisis. This is a cultural crisis, and I did not come here to bury it. I came here to end it." Alicia handed each board member a document. On the front page, bold red letters read, "Comprehensive Reform." Amara rose, stepping before the screen. 1. Immediate termination of Victor Lang and Lauren Whitfield, with no severance, no pension, no benefits. 2. Mandatory training for Marco Ruiz and Ben Carter, bias and sensitivity training under public supervision. Failure means termination. 3. New hiring procedures. All management positions must hold certification in bias prevention. 4. Independent monthly bias audits by a civil rights firm. 5. The hospitality first principle, always assume the guest is legitimate. Verify before exclusion. She paused, looking each member in the eye. Cost, $400,000 annually. Far cheaper than a $2 million lawsuit. Far cheaper than losing an entire generation of customers. Robert Hayes tried to salvage ground. But implementing this across the entire system will be costly, possibly tens of millions. Amara did not blink. 3-year cost, $23 million. Savings from avoided lawsuits, $60 to $80 million annually. Do you want to discuss arithmetic, or continue deceiving yourselves? The room fell silent. The wind outside howled against the glass, underscoring each number. Finally, Helena Park spoke. "I support this." Susan Kim nodded. "So do I." One by one, hands were raised. At last, Robert Hayes, his face drained of color, reluctantly nodded. Helena declared, "The resolution passes unanimously. CEO Ellis has full authority to implement." Amara drew a deep breath. In this moment, power had fully shifted to her. She turned toward the glass, the city lights flickering below. But now, the Grand Meridian was no longer a fortress of prejudice. It had become a battlefield, and she was the one rewriting the rules. She turned back, her voice sharp, yet inspiring. "This is not a crisis. This is an opportunity. From today, the Grand Meridian will be the model for the hospitality industry, not because of luxury, but because of fairness." The boardroom remained silent. No objections left. They knew, from this moment, the rules had changed. And Amara Ellis was the one writing them. The light from the large screen in the boardroom slowly faded. The air settled, heavy yet tinged with anticipation. The board members sat in silence, their faces tense as they waited for the next move. Amara Ellis rose, placing her hand on the polished mahogany table, her eyes glowing with resolve. "We will not bury the truth. We will own it." The word sent a jolt through the room. Robert Hayes stammered, "Own the truth?" "Amara, you don't understand. Admitting mistakes like this is suicide. The press, the shareholders, the customers, they will all turn away." Amara looked directly at him, her voice sharp as a blade. "They have already turned away, Hayes. $42 million in market value disappeared in just 30 minutes. Silence does not protect us. It destroys us. Only transparency can save us." Alicia Moreno opened her laptop, projecting an emergency communications plan onto the screen. The bold items read, 5:00 p.m. Press release. Acknowledge the incident. Issue a public apology. Announce the termination of Victor Lang and Lauren Whitfield. 6:00 p.m. live press conference in the hotel lobby. CEO Ellis answers every question. No evasion. Immediate cooperation with civil rights organizations, NAACP, Urban League, Civil Rights Institute, long-term communication strategy, position Grand Meridian as the industry's reform model. Susan Kim leaned forward, her voice trembling. "This is unprecedented. What company has ever publicly admitted wrongdoing like this? Amara gave a faint smile. It's not about courage. It's about necessity. If we don't speak, then the 97,000 online witnesses will. She paced slowly around the table, each strike of her heels against the marble floor like a drumbeat. Do you see it? The golden opportunity in our hands. Imagine this. Instead of being remembered as a racist hotel, Grand Meridian becomes known as the hotel that faced its failure and reformed immediately. We can turn this humiliation into the new standard for the industry. Helena Park nodded firmly, her eyes bright. Yes, from scandal to case study, a complete turnaround. Alicia added, civil rights organizations have already offered to participate if we act quickly. They will openly support us. That is the strongest shield against public outrage. Robert Hayes still resisted, but the press will probe, will exaggerate, will twist the story. We cannot control the media. Amara stopped, her gaze piercing him. We don't need to control. We lead. We show them everything, raw and unfiltered. The truth will not kill the brand. Lies will. The room fell into silence for several seconds. Then Susan Kim sighed and nodded. She is right. The market rewards honesty more than silence. Amara returned to her chair, her voice steely. Then it is decided. The press release goes out at 5. I will face the world at 6. No shields, no scripted lines, only truth and responsibility. 5 out, bar PM. Press release. Dozens of major news outlets received an email from Grand Meridian Hotels. The subject line forced every editor to open immediately. Grand Meridian. Admits to racial misconduct, announces comprehensive reform. Inside, the words cut straight to the public. Today, Grand Meridian failed. We discriminated against the very CEO of the group that owns this hotel. This is indefensible. We apologize. We act immediately. General Manager Victor Lang and Front Desk Manager Lauren Whitfield have been terminated with immediate effect. System-wide reforms will be implemented across the chain within 90 days. No embellishment, no excuses, only truth laid bare and accountability. The initial reaction was shock. CNN, NBC, Fox all ran breaking coverage. Social media exploded. This hotel dared to admit it. Unprecedented. History in the making. 6 PM press conference. The Grand Meridian lobby, just hours earlier, the stage of humiliation, had become a public forum. Dozens of cameras, microphones, reporters crowded in. Flashbulbs fired continuously, blending with the buzz of voices. Amara stepped out of the elevator. No bodyguards, no concealment. Her charcoal suit remained sharp, her gaze calm. When she reached the podium, silence fell. She began. Today, you witnessed what no one should ever see. Discrimination in a space meant to welcome everyone. I am the CEO of the company that owns the Grand Meridian, but that is not what matters. What matters is that I was treated as millions have been treated, reduced to prejudice. And you saw it with your own eyes. The cameras captured every detail. Amara's steady hand resting on the wooden podium, her gaze direct, unwavering. A reporter raised a hand. Do you intend to sue the hotel for racial discrimination? Amara responded instantly, her voice clear. No. Lawsuits do not change culture. It is the system that must change, and I am here to make that happen. Another asked, what were your personal feelings when you were humiliated so publicly? Amara paused briefly, her tone lowering. My feelings matter less than ensuring no one else ever experiences that again. My humiliation only has meaning if it ends the cycle of humiliation for others. The lobby went silent. Then a small hand rose from the back row. A young black girl, about 9, her eyes shimmering. Her voice trembled. "Miss Ellis, from now on, will people like me be safe when they come to the hotel?" The air froze. Amara stepped down, kneeling to meet the girl's eyes. She placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, smiling softly. "Sweetheart, you belong anywhere your dreams take you, and from today, everyone knows that." In that moment, cameras flashed endlessly. An image more powerful than any speech. A black CEO, kneeling to comfort a child, turning humiliation into hope. Networks broadcast it live. On Twitter, the top global trending phrase emerged, "You belong everywhere." When the press conference ended, Amara returned to the boardroom. Outside, the city glowed brightly. But in everyone's hearts, they knew the true light had just been lit in the Grand Meridian lobby, the light of truth, finally owned. Night had fallen, but inside the Grand Meridian, the crystal chandeliers still blazed, as though determined to witness an unprecedented cleansing. The hotel lobby, where hours earlier insults had echoed, had become a public court. Amara Ellis stood tall at the center, her briefcase clutched against her chest, surrounded by dozens of reporters, cameras, and thousands of online viewers still watching every second through their phones. She signaled. 2 internal security staff stepped forward, escorting Victor Lang and Lauren Whitfield. Victor's blue suit was wrinkled, his tie crooked, his eyes vacant like a man who had just dropped his entire life. Lauren kept her head bowed, makeup smeared, her shoulders trembling. Amara lifted her chin. Her voice rang like a bronze bell. "Today, the entire world has witnessed you choose prejudice over truth. You turned a hotel meant to be welcoming into a stage of humiliation. And that choice comes with a price." She drew a document from her briefcase and handed it to Helena Park, the board's representative. Helena read aloud into the cluster of microphones. According to Clause 12.4 of the Grand Meridian Acquisition Contract, Mr. Victor Lang, General Manager, and Ms. Lauren Whitfield, Front Desk Manager, are terminated immediately. No severance, no pension, no benefits. This decision takes effect now. Murmurs erupted. Reporters shouted. Live stream feeds flickered non-stop. Victor collapsed to his knees, his voice breaking. "Amara, please." 15 years of service. I made mistakes, but give me a chance. Amara looked at him. Her gaze carried no hatred, only the cold weight of justice. 15 years of prejudice cannot be called mistakes. They were choices. And today, that choice has ended your career. Lauren burst into sobs, her shrill cries echoing through the hall. "I'm sorry. I was only following instinct. I didn't know you were the owner." Amara spun around, her voice sharp as ice. "That is exactly the problem, Lauren. I should not need to be the owner to deserve respect. Anyone who walks through these doors deserves to be treated with dignity, and you denied them that most basic right." Cameras swept across the lobby, capturing the moment Victor and Lauren were escorted out by security. The crowd instinctively parted, creating a path. Phones pointed at them like thousands of judging eyes. A journalist whispered, "This scene will be replayed hundreds, millions of times. They have become symbols of downfall." Amara turned. 2 figures remained, trembling. Marco Ruiz and Ben Carter. They stood like guilty students, sweat beading on their foreheads. Marco spoke first, his deep voice unsteady. "Ms. Ellis, we were only following orders. But I know drawing my weapon, threatening you, was wrong. I am ready to accept punishment." Ben nodded quickly. "We will not make excuses. We only ask for one chance to prove we can do better." The lobby went silent. Everyone waited to see Amara's judgment. She stepped closer, her eyes no longer frozen, but filled with measured consideration. She looked directly at Marco, then Ben. "You were wrong. Deeply wrong. You used power to threaten instead of protect. But unlike your superiors, I see true remorse in your eyes, and I believe in second chances, if you are willing to pay for it with action." Ben swallowed hard, his voice trembling. "Anything you ask." Amara gave a small nod. "You will complete bias and sensitivity training within 60 days, under the supervision of a civil rights organization. You will apologize publicly, and you will prove through action that your job is no longer to throw people out, but to ensure everyone is welcomed fairly." Marco bowed deeply. "I promise." Ben choked up. Thank you for giving us a chance." Applause rose from the back of the lobby, at first scattered, then swelling like a wave. It was not applause for firings, but for the message. Justice is not only punishment, it is transformation. Immediately, Amara's communications team set up electronic boards throughout the hotel. In bold letters they displayed, "Every guest belongs here. Verify before assume. Dignity always." Reporters snapped furiously. News outlets fired off headlines. "Grand Meridian. Transformed in 24 hours. Black CEO turns humiliation into reform." A journalist shouted, "Ms. Ellis, are you turning this hotel into a laboratory for social reform?" Amara answered instantly, without hesitation. "No. I am turning it into a hotel in the truest sense, because a true hotel does not discriminate. It welcomes." Outside, the streets glowed with light. Inside, Victor and Lauren disappeared into the shadows of unemployment, while Marco and Ben began their path of redemption. And in that moment, the Grand Meridian was no longer the hotel it once was. It had become a symbol of something simple yet long denied. That every human being has the right to be treated with dignity. Night had fallen over the city, yet the Grand Meridian showed no signs of quiet. Instead, it had become the epicenter of a media earthquake reverberating across the world. News networks launched urgent broadcasts. CNN ran the red banner. "Black CEO ejected from hotel she owned. Fires management on the spot." NBC added the subtitle, "From racism to instant reform, Grand Meridian rewrites the standards of hospitality." On Twitter, the hashtag #YouBelongEverywhere climbed to the #1 spot globally in just 3 hours. Over 2.3 million mentions poured in, from New York to Johannesburg, from London to Tokyo. People shared the clip of Amara bending down to reassure the young black girl, her gentle eyes and her simple words. "Sweetheart, you belong anywhere your dreams take you." That image became an icon, a fleeting moment, but with power surpassing any press release, polarized media reaction. Not everyone applauded. Certain conservative commentators argued, hotels must have standards. If anyone can walk in, where will standards go? Counter hashtags like Standards Matter began to stir, yet the resistance was quickly drowned by the wave of support. The majority could not deny what the video revealed: raw truth. No script, no edits, only the unfiltered reality of a black woman being humiliated in public, then turning the tables with truth and power. Social commentators called it the Rosa Parks moment of hospitality. Market reaction. The next morning, Wall Street trembled. Grand Meridian stock, which had plunged nearly 5% during the incident, rebounded by 7% at market open. Investors were stunned. No company had ever admitted wrongdoing so directly. Bloomberg reported, Amara Ellis's "Own the Truth" strategy transformed crisis into opportunity. Investors see this as a marker of strong and transparent leadership, a value more powerful than any marketing campaign. Major corporations began reaching out. The events department at Grand Meridian received a flood of emails from Fortune 500 companies. They wanted to host conferences here to align their brands with this reform model. Echoes in the community. In major cities, many black families shared personal experiences online. I used to fear walking into a luxury hotel lobby, but today, I feel hope. Hospitality students at Harvard, Cornell, and Stanford all debated the case. Professors declared they would add the Grand Meridian case to their curriculum the very next semester. A viral comment captured the spirit. Yesterday, they tried to push her out the door. Today, she opened that door to the world. Pressure across the industry. It was not only Grand Meridian. Rival hotel chains faced scrutiny. Hashtags spread. Audit your hotels. Journalists began digging into buried incidents of the past. Within 48 hours, 12 hotel conglomerates announced mandatory anti-bias training for all management staff. The American Hotel and Lodging Association convened an emergency meeting to draft the Washington Standard, a new industry benchmark named after Amara Ellis. Amara in the storm. In her suite on the 45th floor, Amara stood at the window, gazing at the glowing city. On the table behind her lay dozens of newspapers, all carrying her image on the front page. Alicia Moreno entered, placing an iPad down. Latest update. Brand favorability index rose from 13% to 67% in just 24 hours. That speed is unprecedented. Amara nodded slightly. And the board's reaction? At first, nervous, but after the stock rebounded, silence. Money has a way of dissolving fear. Alicia shrugged. Amara did not smile. She placed her hand against the glass, her eyes distant. This isn't just about stock. This is about a system. If we reduce this to a PR campaign, then everything today means nothing. Alicia looked at her, admiration flickering in her eyes. Do you know what they are calling you, Amara? The woman who turned humiliation into legacy. A message beyond borders. That night in Johannesburg, a young entrepreneur wept as she watched the live stream, seeing Amara stand tall in the storm. In London, a hotel employee immediately emailed his boss, "We need retraining. I don't want us to end up in the news like Grand Meridian." In Nashville, the little girl who had been comforted by Amara turned on the television, seeing her own image and words spread across the globe. She held her mother's hand and whispered, "I can become anyone, right, Mama?" Her mother hugged her, nodding through tears. The next step. As the clock struck midnight, Amara was still working. On her desk lay the 90-day plan, bias audits at all 57 hotels in the chain, development of training programs, formal partnerships with civil rights organizations. She knew the aftershocks had only begun. Tomorrow, the press would dig deeper. Competitors would sharpen their attacks, but she also knew that today, the world had seen an undeniable truth, that real power can transform humiliation into reform, and that truth, once owned, will defeat every lie. Amara closed her laptop and leaned back in her chair. Outside, the city shone like a sea of stars. Within her, a strange calm spread. The storm had erupted, but from within that storm, a new era had just been born. Dawn broke, bathing the city's towers in golden light. On the ground floor of the Grand Meridian, the faint aroma of coffee lingered, but instead of a peaceful scene, a team of employees sat in order before massive screens. Across the display, words glowed. Hospitality first protocol, verify before assume. Dignity is non-negotiable. It was no longer a slogan. It was the new mandate. Reform begins. Amara Ellis stepped onto the platform, her presence commanding, yet not distant. She did not look at them as a CEO issuing orders, but as someone who had endured the very pain they now needed to understand. "Yesterday the world saw us fail," she said, her voice filling the room. "But starting today, we will show the world how we rise." Dozens of eyes looked up at her. Receptionists, housekeeping managers, chefs, drivers, even those who had witnessed the chaos of the night before. Amara continued. "Hospitality first is not a poster on a wall. It is the lens through which we see every human being who walks through these doors. They are not potential criminals. They are guests. They are people. And our duty is to welcome first, verify second." The sound of pens, scribbling, and fingers tapping laptops filled the air. The atmosphere was as serious as a compulsory class. A second chance. Two figures in the front row kept their heads low. Marco Ruiz and Ben Carter. Both wore security uniforms, their shoulders straight but their faces tense. Amara stopped, her gaze falling squarely on them. "Marco. Ben. Do you have anything you want to say to your colleagues?" Marco stood, his throat dry. "I was wrong. Yesterday, I misused my power. I threatened the very person I was supposed to protect. I will never forget the look in Ms. Ellis's eyes when I pulled my hand from the taser holster. I regret it. And I am willing to start over, if permitted." Ben nodded quickly, his voice shaking. "We were caught up in orders from above. But the truth is we had a choice. We chose wrong. I will never let that happen again." The room was silent for a few seconds. Then suddenly applause broke out. Not everyone, but enough to dissolve the tension in the air. Amara nodded. "That is the spirit of a second chance. Mistakes do not make someone a monster forever. But denying them does. You have admitted them. Now, correct them with action." Facing resistance. Not everyone agreed. At the corner of the room, Mark Benson, a 47-year-old manager, crossed his arms, his brow furrowed. He stood, his tone sharp. "Miss Ellis, we respect your position, but hospitality thrives on standards. If we open the door to everyone, we lower the value. High-end clients want exclusivity, not chaos." Murmurs rippled. A few faces nodded. Amara did not bristle. She stepped down, walked toward him, her eyes sharp yet calm. "Mr. Benson, standards are not the same as prejudice. Luxury is not throwing out people with a different skin color. Exclusivity is not the right to strip dignity. If exclusivity is built on humiliation, then it is no longer service, it is violence in uniform." The words pierced through his defenses. Benson opened his mouth, but nothing came. Applause erupted again, stronger this time, more united. A new audit system, Alicia Moreno, stood and presented the plan. Mandatory bias training for all employees within 60 days, monthly audits by an independent civil rights organization, a direct complaint channel to headquarters bypassing local managers, and public digital boards displaying the number of complaints and how they were resolved each quarter. A young employee raised a hand. "What if a manager pressures us to stay silent?" Amara responded instantly. "Then report directly to me. That is why the new channel exists. No more circles of silence. No more burying the truth." Pressure from outside. The media did not relent. International outlets tracked every move. CNN aired a special, Hotel Group launches largest reform in history. Bloomberg ran, $23 million change to prevent $80 million losses annually. Meanwhile, competitors scrambled, Some launched marketing campaigns. "We have always respected our guests." The public replied, "If you always respected, why only say it now?" Amara knew her reforms were no longer just internal. They had become the new measuring stick for the entire industry. A private moment. That night, after a full day of training, Amara sat alone in her new office. A vast wooden desk, glass walls overlooking the glittering city. She tapped her tablet. The clip replayed, Lauren shouting, "How was I supposed to know she was black?" followed by Victor's red-faced order to call the police. She watched herself, calm, silent, then overturning the script. In her eyes, a flicker of fatigue. Then a thin smile appeared, not the smile of victory, but of someone who knew the road ahead would be long, yet the foundation was already laid. She whispered, almost to herself, "Yesterday, I stood alone. Today, this entire system will stand with me." Transformation. The next morning, just outside the hotel entrance, a large board was erected. On it, bold words were printed. "Welcome is our first language." Guests paused, took photos, and shared them online. The phrase spread quickly. Many called it the new global slogan of the hospitality industry. Grand Meridian, once a symbol of humiliation, was becoming the birthplace of a standard. And it all began with one woman who had been dismissed on this very marble floor. 6 months had passed since the Grand Meridian became the epicenter of a global storm. On the boulevard lit with dazzling billboards, the hotel's logo still gleamed, but inside it was no longer the same Grand Meridian. It had transformed into a new symbol. From failure to case study. In MBA classrooms at Harvard, students studied the clip of Amara being humiliated in the hotel lobby, only to reverse the narrative with acquisition documents. The professor declared, "This is a classic case study in crisis management, turning public humiliation into a force for industry-wide change." At Cornell, hospitality students called that moment the day the rules changed. Essays, research papers, and academic conferences repeatedly analyzed the owning the truth strategy that Amara pioneered. Market revival. Grand Meridian's stock rose steadily, surpassing pre-crisis levels. Revenue climbed by 23% as customers of color, once hesitant, returned to book stays. Major corporations prioritized Grand Meridian for their events. An HR director wrote on LinkedIn, "We chose Grand Meridian because they don't just provide service, they provide assurance. Rivals who once mocked were forced to imitate." A luxury hotel chain in Europe publicly announced, "We are implementing the Hospitality First protocol, following the Grand Meridian standard." The term Washington Standard, named after Washington Hospitality Group, gradually became an international benchmark. People within the new system, Marco Ruiz and Ben Carter, the two guards who once begged for forgiveness, had now become the faces of second chances. After completing bias training, they were promoted to security supervisors. At an internal press briefing, Marco admitted, "The day I pulled my hand from the taser holster to threaten Ms. Ellis, I didn't just wound one person, I wounded the entire industry. But a second chance showed me that justice does not always mean destruction. Sometimes justice is repair." Applause thundered. Meanwhile, Victor Lang vanished from the industry, his career file ended by 30 minutes of prejudice. Lauren Whitfield worked part-time in a retail store, avoiding the press's lenses. They had become bitter reminders that power built on prejudice collapses under the light of truth. Social impact. Across the nation, smaller hotels began auditing their processes, fearful of becoming the next Grand Meridian. Civil rights organizations partnered with Amara to design training programs for the entire service sector. Tennessee passed the Hotel Accountability Act, requiring all hotels to publicly report discrimination incidents. Other states soon followed. A congressman declared on the floor, "No one in this industry will ever be allowed to say, 'People like you,' again. From today, the law will ensure it." A symbolic moment. One evening, Amara attended a charity event in New York. As she stepped down from the stage, a little black girl approached, the same child who had once asked during the press conference, "Will people like me be safe?" Now she wore a white dress, her hair braided neatly, eyes shining. She whispered, "Ms. Ellis, I want to study hospitality management. So one day, my hotel will welcome everyone too." Amara bent down and embraced her. A simple moment, but more powerful than any financial figure, it proved the change had taken root in the hearts of a new generation. A legacy beyond time. The Grand Meridian was no longer just a hotel. It had become a symbol of transforming humiliation into legacy, turning crisis into reform. Amara Ellis was more than a CEO. She was the woman who proved that true power does not lie in business cards or titles, but in the ability to turn truth into a weapon and justice into a system. In a year-end interview, when asked if she believed she had won, Amara only smiled. "I am not seeking victory. I am seeking change." And real change is when what was once considered an exception becomes the standard. She looked out at the sparkling city beyond the window, her voice unwavering. That day has begun, and it will never turn back. The story ended where it began, a hotel lobby. But now, instead of insults, only one message echoed. Every guest belongs here. Verify before assume, dignity always. A legacy not just for the Grand Meridian, but for the entire service industry. Proof that when power meets prejudice, there is only one outcome. Prejudice must bow. In that grand hallway, a woman once humiliated rewrote the rules entirely. Amara Ellis proved that true power does not come from titles or wealth, but from unwavering resolve in the face of injustice. From a night of disgrace, she transformed that moment into a torch that now lights the path for an entire industry. The Grand Meridian, once a symbol of discrimination, has become the benchmark of fairness. And that legacy is not only written in reform documents, but in every story and every person welcomed with the respect they deserve. The question is for you, the one watching this video. Have you ever experienced a moment where you were underestimated or rejected because of your appearance or background? And how did you rise above it? Share your story in the comments below, because your voice may give strength to someone else. If this story resonates with you, hit like to spread the message. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the journeys to come, where justice is no longer a slogan, but a living action. And before you leave, type 2 words, "Dignity wins," to affirm that you too believe in a world where dignity always triumphs over prejudice. Because in the end, true luxury is not found in crystal chandeliers, but in how we treat one another.